Ciao, I'm Marco Pierobon and you're watching Trumpet Flicks. Ta-dum!
Hi, I'm Bruno Garcia and I'm here with the great Marco Pierobon, the trumpet player from Italy, and you play with the Gamelan Brass Quintet.
Hello everyone, ciao.
Yeah, and Marco, it's a pleasure to have you here in São Paulo.
It's a pleasure to be here and thank you for the invitation for the festival, which is a very good occasion for Brazilian and South American trumpet players and enthusiasts to meet since a lot of years, I think, right?
Okay, yeah, of course. Marco is here for the Jazz Trumpet Festival VIP edition, and he's going to teach a couple lessons and perform a recital with piano, and he will talk about that later. And Marco, for those that don't know you, just give you a little introduction. Who you are? What do you do?
So, I was born in the ancient 1975 in Italy, northern side of Italy. Bolzano is the city, pretty close to Austria. A small city, and I mean, when I was young, some of the afternoon activities of my school were music, and then I went into a wind band just to learn how to play, and from that point on, like every European trumpet player, I went into the conservatory, and then finishing the conservatory, I went into the Italian Youth Orchestra, which is of course the selection of the best young players all over Italy, where I met my wife, violin player Francesca. Hi Francesca, ciao. And then I've started my career in the orchestra. At the beginning, of course, making some substitutions and having very short contracts, like 1 week here, one week there, and then finally winning some big auditions. Going to play into the Toscanini Orchestra in Parma as a second trumpet player for 2 years, and then Florence Opera for 4 seasons with Zubin Mehta, and then Rome Symphony Orchestra, Santa Cecilia for 5 seasons, some appearances with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, just for fun, and with La Scala Orchestra, until I've decided that having a brass quintet, having my solo career, arranging some music was fun enough to tell to myself, okay, let's stop with the orchestra and let's fly alone and do something alone without having to sit every day in the same spot in the orchestra. That's me.
Okay, that's great.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I remember watching one of your first videos on the YouTube. It was in 2008. We spoke about that.
Yep.
Yeah, the Gamelan Brass concert in Japan. And that was something else. If you don't know that, check out that on YouTube. How old were you when you started on trumpets, and who were your teachers?
I've started when I was 8 years old. My first teacher was an euphonium teacher in the wind band of Bolzano, which is in the northern side of Italy, but he came from the very southern part, in which the wind bands are a strong tradition. Let's say making acting like substitutes of the opera traditions. In the small towns in southern Italy, the tradition was to play in front of people opera extracts or even whole operas with wind bands. And instead of sopranos and tenors' voices, there was the soprano flugel, and then the tenor flugel, and then the bass flugel, to make this kind of soloistic role. I'm telling it because since my first lessons, I've got this information very clear in my head. The trumpet sounds were like my voice. So I remember very clearly my first teacher, Vincenzo Talarico, telling me, Marco, don't ruin your voice. Speaking about my trumpet playing. So the distance between human voice and trumpet voice was 0. in terms of phrasing, in terms of colors, in terms of vibrato. And that was my very first lessons, my very first contact with the brass world. Then I went into the conservatory. My first and unique teacher in the conservatory was Otto Rabensteiner. And after that, Giancarlo Parodi, a pupil of Arnold Jacobs. So he's an Italian guy. Now he's a colleague of mine in the Bolzano Conservatory. So we have two classes, one led by myself, and the other one led by Giancarlo Parodi. And he was studying in Chicago with Arnold Jacobs, Vince Chikovitz, and all the old-style Chicago lineup of great musicians and teachers. So I could say that I'm a mixture of different schools, because the ancient Southern Italian bel canto style, the Chicago school, and let's say the German style, because Otto Rabensteiner did study even in Germany. So there is a mixture in northern side of Italy, receiving some information even from Germany and Austria.
When you were a student, how many hours did you practice per day?
So I was never a great long-term practicer. I mean, 2 or 3 hours per day. That was the average. I remember myself practicing for the final diploma audition, arriving until 5 or 6 hours, but no more. And that was not my regular routine. So I can say that I always preferred to practice very smart and to practice what I have to practice, because I like to play football as well, to go with my friends, to find a girlfriend. So my entire life was not into the trumpet. So practicing smart and fast is is my obsession to get to be prepared, of course, for everything, but not spending a whole day on the trumpet, which is even dangerous for the lips.
And now, how is a normal day of practicing for Marco Pierobon?
A normal day, like I started to say before, is not a normal day, because every day is different, depending from the family, depending from the career. So if I have a concert or not, if I have lessons or not, I can say that because I'm teaching in the conservatory almost weekly in 2 conservatories. So I will practice technical basics with my students, like in call and answer form. So if I'm practicing basics at the conservatory with my students, I don't practice at home. So I don't go home to practice scales or Chikovitz. Normally, I shift between even so 2 hours a day. But I can always say that I'm arranging a lot. I'm writing a lot of music for myself, for the Gomalan Brass Quintet. And writing means imagining how will that sound on the real brass quintet, because the sounds of the computer could be very beautiful, but not the truth, right? Yeah. So I have to imagine myself playing, and that's a wonderful exercise for the brain as well. So practice should be inside the brain and then finalized on the technical part, on the lips. If the imagination part is almost there, you don't have to practice so much to learn the pieces, because the work was already done. So let's say 2 hours a day.
And what books did you study over your life?
I mean, the Bibles. Arban, Chikovitz, Clark, Stemp, Schlossberg, all the books that everybody can have access to. I think that a central aspect of my didactic is starting from the point that I can imagine the best possible exercise for me or for my students, but then I have to put that exercise on paper. And on paper, everybody can read the exercise, but some students or some people is thinking that only doing the exercise it makes you play better, not thinking about the very simple fact that to play better you have to play the exercise as good as you can. So if you practice Schlossberg, or if you practice stamp out of tune, it's automatic that you will learn to play out of tune.
Yep.
So it's like spending time to play worst, which makes no sense. So the simple fact that it's the same what kind of book you have to practice for that day. The very important question is why? What do you want to achieve through that book? Because books are material. The books are work proposals. They are not the truth. They are not the Bible. I was joking, of course. They are material that you can use to achieve a goal. If you know what goal you are searching for, you are aiming for, then it's more possible that you are getting closer and closer to the goal. So it's doesn't matter what you are playing. What it really matters is that you have a clear idea how do you want to sound at what do you want to achieve.
And did you have any chop issues over the years?
Yeah, of course. I'm speaking about it because that was one of the most helpful things that helped me when I was in the middle of my crisis, knowing that it was not only me. I was not the only stupid guy in the world with a chop crisis, but asking colleagues, asking professors, it's something that could happen. We spoke about yesterday. It was in the middle of 2004, between 2004 and 2005. I don't know why. Maybe for a very hard summer of playing the recording of our first CD with my brass quintet, whatever. Then I discovered at the end of the year that I was missing some notes. So above the stuff after G, just to tell about to speak about notes, everything was disappearing. So one day I could play a whole scale. The other day I was playing up to G and then but the bad news was that in the night I have to be in the orchestra because I was playing Rome Symphony Orchestra, playing all the Rome Symphony repertoire. So starting from Sherazade, Mahler symphonies, the big stuff. So it was a very, very hard time for me, nerves, and it was really crazy. I was asking myself, what could I do in terms of getting a new job? Because I was no more able to play the trumpet. So it was pretty hard. But then with time, with rebuilding everything, with a lot of patience, after, let's say, 1.5 years of slow practice, everything came back. And I can now say that after the crisis, now I'm playing much better than before, much easier than before. So it's a process of relearning everything and having to deal with yourself to make sure that what you are doing is exactly, or at least so close as possible, as the most efficient way to produce sounds.
Maybe playing more efficient.
Yeah, that's a great point. I would like to speak about it in my conference during the festival. So efficiency is a key word that we should strive for every day in our practice.
Okay. And for you, what aspects are the most important for the best trumpet sound? What's the best trumpet sound for you?
It's a wonderful question. It's a very philosophical question. I think that when it goes on something beautiful, you cannot measure it. It's not centimeters, it's not kilos, it's not liters. It's a matter of your feelings, your personal taste, your experience. So I think that having or developing a bibliothèque of like files right in your brain about your heroes. We spoke about heroes and myths about the trumpet or the brass world. I can remember myself sitting in an auditorium listening for the first time a recital by Roger Bobo, which is the first time I was listening to a solo tuba recital. In Bolzano, when I was playing with a wind band, the tuba was always playing. That's it. So the soloistic role of the tuba was a concept that for me was too difficult to imagine. But I really can feel the Roger Bobo sound into my stomach, because it was like, ooh, something very physical. And that became part of my idea of a beautiful sound. And then, of course, Maurice André recordings, or I met Timofey Dorkschitzer live and listening to something that vibrates into your soul and trying to copy that, or Arturo Sandoval or Adolf Herseth. So every chop of every piece of the sound of your heroes could be a part of your personal sound. In other terms, I can speak about the concept of resonance. I think that a great sound will flow into the hall, flow into the space, and let the air around you resonate, so vibrate with you, with your sound, which is the opposite of pressing, of pushing, of screaming. Of course, we have to play high notes, very soft and very loud notes, but if those notes doesn't resonate, they will be deaf in the third row of the audience. So that's another idea that I would like to achieve.
Okay. And speaking about students,
Yeah.
what is the worst thing that a student could do?
Rhythm, solfeggio. In a very simple way, our brain is a wonderful machine, but the brain has to deal with a lot of information going on in the same time when it goes on every activity. If you're running, if you're playing chess, if you are cooking, if you are doing math, if you're playing the trumpet, even the single muscular movements, the fingers, the air, the pressure, the abdomen, the tonguing, the buzzing, everything should go on in the same moment. If the brain doesn't know which moment is it, so your rhythmical perception is not very, very strong and precise. It's like sending different message in different times. So it could be that your finger is a little bit in advance, your tonguing is a little bit behind, and this kind of misconception about rhythm could lead to big errors. So I'm not telling it because I never make errors, but the idea is that I'm feeling that, and I'm dealing with students with not a clear idea about rhythm and solfeggio. This is even present in a wonderful video recorded by Dale Clevenger about the Chicago Symphony audition process, and he in a very simple manner says that between round number 1 and between round number 2, 90% of the candidates will go home because of rhythm and intonation. So it's up to us, it's up to you, if I could give an advice. If you would like to be a part of the 90%, not clear on the rhythm, or the 10% with a clear idea of what is written on the page, or the jazzy feeling of a song. So starting from there, I think that this will be very important. So rhythm and rhythmical perception.
Okay. And I know that you have a very nice website with a good material there.
Of course.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
The website material started because of not my way to speak about didactics or trumpet didactics. I think that learning a musical instrument or singing or music comes from listening. And the idea of every human being learning to do something. Like when we were young, small child, we've learned to speak, imitating our parents. So you speak Brazilian or Portuguese because your parents did speak with you Portuguese, and I was speaking Italian because of the same reason. So without any technical explanation, right? Only speaking, listening, and repeating. And this is very powerful. So I was thinking that for the reason I've told you before, so of course the Clark studies are wonderful, but they could be more powerful if you could study them right after an example of someone playing the example for you. And in my dream, there were Maurice André coming into the room and playing for me the Tchaikovsky. It was not possible because I never met Maurice André, but in my dream, my imagination was to let Maurice André play in my head, and right after him, following the same sound. On the website and on that material, I did exactly the same job. I mean, I was playing the Tchaikovsky, just one line, and then there is the time for the student or for the player to follow the example. Of course, knowing the notes or just by ear, but the idea is not only doing the exercise, but following the previous example. That's for the technical material. And then I have scales exercises, arpeggios exercises, orchestral stuff practice, solo concerts. Like I wrote 36 studies and exercises for the Arutunian trumpet concerto, just for example, starting from the very, very easy ones and making sure that the technical material, not the musical one, but the technical material is in your fingers, is in your chops, and making sure that the practice will be smart and not hard, right? And then the last one is orchestral stuff. I've recorded some orchestral excerpts for maybe 5 trumpet, like the Mahler 5th Symphony or Mahler 1st Symphony, with all the parts separated. And then you can just make the 3rd trumpet touch it and play the 3rd trumpet within a section made by myself. So I play 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 5th, and you play the 3rd. So it's a matter to, of course, practice alone in your studio, in your apartment, but not feeling alone and following an example and feeling part of a section, just for example.
Okay, so it's basically by imitating your sound, your technique, the way you play.
Yeah. I have to say, not because I'm the only example in the world, of course. But I would like to follow Maurice André, but Maurice André never recorded that kind of material. So I could be one example. But the game is, if the student could be able to follow my example, then if the example changes, he can follow the other example. And then the personal test kicks in, and of course everyone has his own sound, his own stylistic approach, and so on and so on. So it's a matter of an imitation game to learn how to imitate, and then you change the subject being able to imitate. And the other good news is the cost. Of course, it's
that's important.
€2, and which is $2, $2.1 every month. So you can just practice every day for 0.06 euros per day. So it's nothing. I think for me, it's only for covering the costs of the platform. The amount of material is huge because it's hours and hours and hours and hours of practice that you can access, and having all the PDFs, all the recording, everything. And that's it, basically. It's a wonderful project in which I'm believing very, very strongly.
Wow, that's amazing, really amazing.
Thank you.
And for us, just to finish, leave a message for the trumpet players that are watching us.
I would like to say something in the spirit of the festival. So nowadays, we all have access to a huge amount of material, YouTube videos, recordings, whatever. So it's never a matter of having the possibility to, most of the time is the possibility to choose from a huge amount of material. So my suggestion is, of course, we all know the big names, Arturo and Allen and Adolf, and yeah, being curious and going outside the box, trying to listen to other names, other traditions, Far East, other Australian trumpet players, or Northern Europe trumpet players, there, or musicians, not only trumpet players. There are a lot of possibilities. But on the other hand, at my time, I can say I have, I'm 49 years old now, and at my time, I had to buy recordings. So when a disc or a CD came into my house, I was listening to it and then listening and listening again until it's like something going inside my DNA. So that's another kind of level of listening, of learning, of imitating, because the recording was part of you, and it did cost a lot.
Yeah.
So you have to listen over and over and over to make sure that you are learning something. So it's both worlds are true. So we have the possibility to access to anything, but sometimes we just listen one time and that's it, and we go on, which is not so interesting. But on the other hand, we try to listen always to the same names, which is okay, of course, but there are a lot of wonderful music out there to listen to. So be curious and search for news.
Okay, thanks for watching.